good sized crowd in here as well. So I'm going to continue to let people in as they show up, but for the sake of everyone's time, we'll go ahead and get started. First off, just want to say thank you for joining us this evening for our webinar on transition services and supports. We have a great event planned with tons of resources, and I may be underselling it when I say tons of resources. We have a lot of resources. My name is Jared Hobson, and I'm the president of Virginia CEC. My colleague Mike Solomon and I will be monitoring the chat today to relay any questions to the panelists if they were to come up as they're presenting the material. Please access the slideshow using the link that can be seen on the presentation. I'll also continuously put that in the chat so then you can click on it for easy access. All right, next slide.
We just want to make sure that everybody was aware that if you need or would like to watch or view closed captions, they are available. In Zoom, they are turned on by default. So if you would rather turn them off, just click live transcript, and then you can either click show subtitle or hide subtitle on Zoom, or sorry, on YouTube, if you want to view captions there. On the bottom right corner of your video, you're going to see a CC option. So if you'd like to turn on your captions on YouTube, just click CC there.
And just a little plug for our organization. We are the Virginia unit of the Council for Exceptional Children. And here's some information about our organization. If you don't have a professional organization and are interested in joining one or interested in hearing more about what goes into being a part of one of these organizations, please reach out to us. Twitter, Facebook, through our website, there's a contact on there, as well as an email address that I'll also put in the chat. So our agenda tonight, we have a large panel, and they consist of, someone said on Twitter, 3 of the best in Virginia. I think that's how you all were referred to. Dr. Colleen Thoma has her research team here as well that will be presenting with her. And Marianne Moore and Judy Averill will be presenting after that. And there will be time for Q&A, as well as some additional opportunities at the end of our session. With that being said, I'd like to go ahead and turn this over to Dr. Thoma and her research team from Virginia Commonwealth University.
Thanks, Jared. And again, welcome to everybody who is here for this session. Gabby, we can move forward with it to the next slide. You know, we just became obviously so very aware of how difficult dealing with this pandemic has been for families, for school personnel, certainly for us at the university, but also for students with disabilities and receiving the services that they need. And so we thought that this would be a good opportunity for us to give back to our community, to provide some resources that you can use to strengthen the transition services that are being provided to youth with disabilities right now. If you're a parent, if you are you know, a special educator or transition coordinator, but also if you're an individual, a student with a disability, thinking about how do I make this happen? How do I think about what I'd like to do after high school? So, you know, again, we wanted to bring some resources to you. So our research team will look at some of the components of transition services, and then Marianne Moore will talk about the services and supports that are available from Virginia Department of Ed. And Judy Averill will talk about some of the more local hands-on resources that the center she works for provides at VCU at the RRTC. So next slide. So what do we mean by transition services? You know, certainly we all go through multiple transitions throughout our lives and throughout the school, throughout our day. But when we're talking about it in this context, we're talking about providing support to help students move to life after high school in a broad way, not just thinking about, are we going to help them get a job, or are we going to help them go to college, but thinking about how to have and put the pieces in place so they can have a well-rounded life, so that that vision for their adult life with friends and fun things to do and a place to live and connection to their community, so that all of those things happen. And again, although we're mostly offering these things remotely, it is an opportunity to take advantage of the things that students with disabilities can learn in their own home, and ways that they can provide and make connections remotely maybe, but make connections that support them in moving forward. So, these are just some of the domains that are there, but thinking about all of this holistically. So thank you. Go ahead and move forward, Gabby. So we're used to doing IEP planning and bringing together a team of people to come up with the best educational program for students with disabilities or individual students. But with transition planning, that team can become larger. And we want to be sure that we have expanded and thought of the people that can provide help and support. So, within schools, certainly special educators, but, general ed teachers talking about how do we get this student ready to earn their high school diploma. School counselors provide a wealth of information about getting into college and financial aid. So, they can be part of the process and part of this about the support team. The student themselves should be invited to the meeting so they can talk about their hopes and dreams for their future and be part of actively planning for what those services will be, what their goals are for the year. And then a range of different adults support staff and representatives who might be paying for some of those services, from vocational rehabilitation to those other adult providers that might be helping make this happen in the future. So I wanted to highlight a few resources. If you need more just general information about what do we mean by transition planning, I wanted these resources to be available for you. The IRIS Center, most of you probably, if you're special ed teachers, you know about the IRIS Center. They provide a lot of webinars. They have one that is specifically geared toward parents, and it's talking about remote learning in this time of the pandemic. So it's not specific for transition, but they have a lot of tips there that certainly apply. The National Technical Assistance Center on Transition also provides a range of different resources, from lesson plans that you can use and modify to additional resources about what do we mean by transition, or what do we mean about some of these research-based practices that have been shown to be effective. And then our Division on Career Development and Transition, which is a division of the Council for Exceptional Children, they've done a great job of mobilizing and providing remote instruction and remote resources related to transition. And their webinars and this webcast that I have pictured here are things that aren't just one and done training, but they're ongoing. There's discussion boards, there's resources that continue to put up, and that they continue to expand that as things come up. So again, these will all be on your resource list that we'll provide after this training. But again, I wanted to highlight a few things that are out there to save your time with searching with what's out there. So we're going to move on to Gabby Pickover, who's a member of our team, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the specific resources related to preparing for employment.
Thank you. So when I was doing a little bit of research, I came across ARC's promising practices during COVID, especially regarding employment for students with disabilities. And they had some recommendations that I thought were kind of important as an overview. They recommended staying in regular connection with students. That could be through Zoom, phone calls, what have you, but to have that as a regular ongoing connection. See this as an opportunity to work on technology education, but also discuss the safety of technology and all the things that they need to know about their information and putting information out there, that this could be a definite opportunity to be working on all those kind of things. They also recommend practicing your interview skills online with students, and possibly having students do virtual job tours. You can go on sites, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, as well as different pre-ETS discovery options at home. In addition, I think it's really important about talking with the students about self-care, both physically, as far as washing hands and keeping their distance, but also taking care of themselves mentally. I think they're definitely, the COVID era has brought about mental health as a prominent issue. And if you can job coach on site with safety precautions, and I'm hopeful that things will start opening up, but to be safe and do those job coachings on site as much as you can. And finally, just provide hope and reassurance. This is a lot of unsteady time, and that students may just need that reassurance that things won't always be this way. So I divided it up into 3 different areas. Job exploration was the first area. And this is a few sites that, and again, you'll get these resources sent to you as well, but a few sites that give opportunities for students to actually explore different career paths. Here they can, at the T-Folio, they can create a online it's a free transition portfolio tool. At ONET Resource Center, it helps them find jobs and learn the training that's required. And here's a free workbook to identify kind of career paths that they might want to do. And then finally, Explore Work is just an opportunity for them to look at, future plannings and discovery. So this is more of kind of the discovery of looking for jobs. The second section would be job readiness training. And this is when they're practicing those skills. And Colleen mentioned the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition. There's a lot of lesson plans out there for employment, as well as the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center. So both sites really have great curriculum. And then there's this Junior Achievement Promising Tomorrow. They have different levels from elementary to high school, so you can kind of cater it to what level the student is on. But it talks about work and career readiness training. And finally, there's the on-the-job virtual supports, because we obviously can't be there sometimes with them, especially with COVID. There's a lot of encouragement to just use the apps that we are given on our phones, because students and employers are familiar with these, and so it makes it easier. But there is a cloud-based one called Life Sherpa. Now it's an app that helps with disability services agencies, and it's a management platform that you can explore. And if you're looking at accommodations and any kind of disability employment issues, the Job Accommodation Network is a great site to check out as well. So I'm going to pass the baton to Amber.
Hi everyone, I'm Amber Ruiz, and I'll be talking about education as a part of our discussion. One of the best predictors of post-school success other than work experience is inclusion. And while inclusion may be difficult right now with some of our students who are staying at home and don't have access to those academic pods or not going into the classroom, the Cedar Center suggests using high leverage practices to support students in an online environment. However, this may look a little different as students move forward with even considering hybrid classes and other issues that students may face in terms of social isolation, limited technology and financial resources, and limited support for students who may have parents who are essential workers or even teachers themselves. Some of the practices that the Cedar Center suggests is including explicit instruction to your lesson plans, creating consistent, organized, and respectful learning environments, facilitating social interaction, using their peers as a part of their scaffolding supports, providing positive feedback, using assistive technology. So becoming aware of more assistive technology and instructional technologies. We have a few listed in our resource list that you could use, and organize and facilitate effective meetings and collaborate with parents. And this will require you to like communicate more often than or require all of us to communicate more often than we normally would outside of this pandemic. All right, Gabby, you can go to the next slide. So the 4 resources I've listed are the comprehensive integrated 3-tier model of prevention. On this site, they have a COVID instructional packet that that they've been using and may be helpful as far as using in the classrooms and educating online. The coalition, the Transition Coalition, has more resources on students who have transition students who have complex medical needs during this long distance or distance learning period. Intact has other COVID-19 specific to transition, and Wide Open Schools has a variety of resources not tailored to transition, but it does have a lot of resources related to getting access to technologies and finding local resources. Also they provide other like culturally competent material as well. All right, Katie, and now I pass it on to Katie to discuss a little bit more about like post-secondary education.
Great, thank you, Amber. My name is Katie Brendli, and I just wanted to highlight a few resources for supporting students with disabilities in college or university, and also offer some information for parents, students, families, and educators. First is Think College, which is a national organization dedicated to developing, expanding, and improving inclusive higher education options for people with intellectual disability, including conducting evidence-based and student-centered research and practice, and engaging students, professionals, and families. Think College also provides several resources on how to teach and learn during COVID-19 at the post-secondary level, including strategies to support students with ID in college or those who are transitioning to college. An example of that is offering tips for educators to support students with intellectual disability as they move to online learning environments, physically away from their peers and established schedules, or sharing videos of educators, which educators can use to teach students how to use virtual platforms such as Zoom. For those seeking to learn more about inclusive higher ed for college students with ID, I also wanted to briefly mention that there is an annual conference called the State of the Art Conference for all those parents and family members attending today's webinar. And it also offers a college fair, which was virtual this year, and it helps family members and helps guide family members understand the different programs offered at different colleges and universities, particularly for students with ID, post-secondary students who are transitioning to college or would like to seek college. There's also AUCD, which stands for the Association of University Centers on Disabilities. And AUCD is a network of interdisciplinary centers advancing policy and practice for and with individuals with developmental and other disabilities, their families and communities. AUCD particularly has a special interest group that they offer to those who are interested in learning more about post-secondary education. And they also have a post-secondary education resources page as well. They also have updates on COVID-19 and employment-related issues and issues related to post-secondary education. And finally, there is the PACERS National Parent Center on Transition and Employment, which offers not only information on inclusive higher education for youth with intellectual disability, including why it's important for both students with and without intellectual disability, but it also provides resources for parents and families related to preparing for transitions during COVID and those post-secondary transitions out of high school, as well as the legal rights for people with disabilities, particularly under the Americans with Disabilities Act, such as discussing ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, compliance, practical job accommodation strategies for individuals with disabilities returning to work during the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are a few resources, particularly for post-secondary education. And now we'll be passing on to Josh, who will talk about independent living.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all joining. We've got a fabulous slate of presenters, so I'll be very, very brief. I want to talk a little bit about independent living, share some ideas and a couple of resources, and then pass it along. So hopefully something that piques your interest. So, independent living really is one of the areas I think of transition planning and programming that sometimes gets overlooked. We think about work and we think about college and post-secondary education, and then sort of fill in the gaps with independent living. But it's a really, really important area that I actually think we have an opportunity now because things are so disrupted, and there's actually an opportunity to really create some connections that maybe wouldn't be there before. And so when we think about independent living, we're thinking about how can we get our transition age youth, our students, really engaged and included in their communities and meaningfully for them. So that may look different from student to student. And so, thinking about how we can use sort of a person-centered approach to figuring out, what does meaningful community engagement look like from one student to the other, because it's not going to be the same in the same way as students may need different sort of agency connections to get the services that they need in adulthood. In the same way, what's engagement and inclusion in the community for one student is going to look very, very different for the other. So fortunately, I think one of the benefits, if you can call it that, of the times that we're living in now is really, I think, the availability of folks from a lot of these community agencies and institutions that may otherwise not be available. So thinking about, let's say, a student that's interested in museums or a specific content related to a museum, there may be personnel that could be available to meet with, to engage with, that otherwise may be engaged in other things. So it's really thinking and spending this time to think about, what does meaningful community engagement look like for the students that you work closely with, and how can you work to sort of engage them and link with those things. And the other thing I think that is a real potential right now is the engagement with parents, because students are spending so much more time at home, and there's such a demand from parents to really get support in creating meaningful independent routines and self-determination at home. I think there's a real opportunity for partnership. And one of the things that I've seen a lot of teachers doing that I think is wonderful and fabulous, and I'd love to see more of, is really supporting parents to look at what functional routines look like at home and in the community, and really supporting parents to use what we know as special educators works, which is systematic instruction, creating task analyses that really break down the skills that are meaningful at home and meaningful in the community, and really kind of taking the time to personalize those for parents who are much more motivated and much more available to kind of work on those things, and really coaching parents to implement this, which I think has just been a wonderful wonderful development. So I think those are a couple areas where even though there's certainly a lot of challenges to distance instruction and some of the precautions that we're taking because of COVID, there's also some opportunities I think that we can build on as well. And so I want to share just a few places where you can look to find other resources for community living. One of, I think, of the biggest agencies that is underutilized, and they do fantastic work, is the Centers for Independent Living. They are all over the country, and different communities have different centers for independent living. That link there under the National Council for Independent Living has a list of those in Virginia. So you can find the Centers for Independent Living in your community, and they support with a whole range of things. I'll leave you to take a look at the website to see, but they can support individuals as they navigate benefits or figure out transportation or housing, and they're staffed by people with disabilities. Is really kind of a support to coach to really make sure that people are independent. So they're a fantastic resource that I think should be used much more than they are. On the top left is the Institute for Community Integration, and they have a whole range of resources and wonderful materials around community living. It's really good stuff. ILRU is an organization that's focused on independent living, funded by the Administration for Community Living. And they have developed a whole range of COVID-19 resources, so really worth checking out. Some good things to kind of think about how you can think about community engagement during this time. And then the self-determination group at the University of Kansas has some wonderful resources, just in thinking kind of more globally about self-determination. And if you can go to the next slide, Gabby, you got 3 more. The Engage All Abilities link there is a research group actually that's going on across the country to look at kind of increasing meaningful participation of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the country. And so if you're interested in that work and ongoing development, that's worth checking out and getting involved in that. And then the link on the right is the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance National Technical Assistance and Data Center. That's housed here at VCU, and their focus is really benefits and benefits counseling. And so unfortunately, what we see a lot of is that, as individuals who receive benefits don't work as much as they could otherwise because of a fear of losing benefits or a reduction in benefits that they may rely on. So really important as part of the transition process to get the information out to individuals and families who may rely on those benefits about how work and pay would affect those benefits. Are really important. And the last one I neglected to put a link on here is our website, the VCU Autism Center for Excellence. And we have a whole range of resources, video modeling, visual supports around COVID, distance instruction. So a lot of those materials that you may look to provide families and provide individuals with around some of the new routines and unusual things that we've had to adopt because of the protocols. We have those there to share. So I appreciate you sharing that, Jared. And then I am not sure, Colleen, am I turning it back over to you now? No.
All right, I think it's Marianne's turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you guys have kind of painted the picture across the nation. So we're going to narrow down, and Marianne works with the Virginia Department of Education, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her role and the resources with secondary transition.
Good evening, everyone. My role is secondary transition includes graduation, dropout, compliance, and post-school outcomes. So two of the most exciting and fun things I get to do is I'm the project officer for the Center on Transition Innovations, which is funded through VDOE, and also the I'm Determined project, also funded through VDOE. So those are the really fun things, and working with youngsters and watching them go to work or go on to post-secondary. And grow up. And we actually have some youngsters who now have families, and they share pictures of kids and exciting things that are happening in their lives. So it's nice to see all of that. So what's important about secondary transition on the VDOE web pages? Well, I'd say almost everything, because sometimes we talk about transition only with that 13, 14-year-old through 21. But the truth of the matter is that transition starts earlier than that. For educators, I think it starts at age 2 when those little peeps start preschool. And the question is, Are they playing and learning with peers? Or are they isolated and only have access to other youngsters with disabilities? Are there teachers who teach typically developing preschoolers, or are they teachers who only work with students who have or youth who have disabilities? And the truth of the matter is that if you look at our standards of accreditation, they say all children will, all students will. There's no qualifier for the word all. So if you think all except youngsters with disabilities, somebody needs to help you understand what all really means. So that's my preaching. So the one thing you might look at, and all the things in that light blue that are underlined are actually links. And we're not going to go to all those links, but you have access to them. So the special ed regulations are important to know and to flip back to them once in a while. And we have those on the VDOE webpage. Diploma status, graduation, instruction, career and technical education. We actually have adult education as part of our instructional, the big instruction, not special ed instruction, as part of that. If we want students to be employed post high school, one of the things we want to know is what's going on with career and technical education. You know, kids are now looking at earning credentials to go to work. Sometimes you need that credential to even go on to take that next set of coursework that will help you go further in a career. So it's really important to know what they have on their website. What is it, or their web pages. One of the things that they have, and again, I hope you'll go look on their site, is a work-based learning guide. So they have the standards for what should a program look like if you want students to be work ready when they exit. They also have a great document that talks about it's like a continuum. So it'll show you what would it look like for a 13-year-old or 14-year-old who does a job shadow. And then it goes all the way through the continuum to that internship. And to career and technical education, that internship generally entails being paid, but it might not always, but that's how it's projected in their grid. So you might want to look at things like that. But again, their career and technical education documents have all the rules that you need to know for the federal labor laws and also for Virginia labor laws. So I think that's really important. And you know that when you look at instruction and the SOL and substitute assessments, that's what helps youngsters graduate from high school, really ready for the next step, whether it's post-secondary education, post-secondary training, or a university. So placement early on really is a predictor of your diploma of what kind of diploma you're going to get. So if you start out as a kindergartner or a first grader or a second grader, or think about third grade when students take the SOL, and the youngsters, their parent doesn't want them to take the SOL, or the teacher has decided, or the school's decided, or encouraged the parent that might be stressful, or maybe they're not ready to take an SOL. So they get on that treadmill where they're not going to take an SOL. Well, at some point, if you don't do that, and we have verified credits, you're not going to earn a diploma. And that diploma status also is a predictor of those post-secondary opportunities you're going to have. That doesn't mean that youngsters who get an applied studies diploma can't go on to a specialized post-secondary program, but it does predict also the employment opportunities and the additional training that may or may not be available to them. So those are the reasons I think that it's as important to know what's on this VDOE webpage, and what decisions are made and what tests look like and what accommodations look like. And we have some specialized accommodations just for students with disabilities called credit accommodations. So it's also important to know that as you're developing an IEP. Staying in school, that's all through our student services, that's special ed student services. They have a lot of information about programs to keep kids in school, to increase their attendance, dealing with some of the strife that happens in school, bullying, has lots and lots of information. And of course, special education, our web pages, they'll let you know who the specialists are, about related services. I didn't link those, but the one I did link, reports and data. And that gives you all the information on the kinds of things we collect and send to the Office of Special Education Programs, what the data looks like, how do we collect the data. And I think that's important. We also have it, you can see each school division and how they're doing with their data. So you can look and see graduation, dropout, a myriad of other things, inclusion, but you also will see indicator 13, which is compliance, and you'll also see indicator 14. You won't see a lot of, it doesn't dig deep, it's just basic percentages, but you can see that. And then the other thing is we have those directories who can help. So the directories are nice because they're not just arranged by people, they're arranged by divisions. So if you're interested in English instruction, you can go to the webpage, you look at instruction, general ed instruction, and you can find out who's responsible for world languages, who's responsible for mathematics instruction. Same thing with career and technical education. You can find out who coordinates the agriculture programs across the state. So I think those are all places you might want to go and get some basic information about instruction. Now, here's the bad news. The pages are all being reorganized and edited. So you can go today and find lots of things. I can't tell you what it's going to look like a month from now. Do you want to go to the next slide? Okay, this is the CTE Resource Center. It physically resides in Henrico, but anybody can go there and use it. And when you go to, and of course, again, you see some links. If you go to Verso, that has the courses that CTE offers. Those courses are broken down into the objectives, the standards, how they evaluate. And so if a student came to you and said, I think I want to be a carpenter, you can actually look up construction trades and what it takes to be in that course, what kinds of things that student is going to have to do, and then you can begin preparing the student for that. You want to go to the next slide? Okay, I'm Determined. You know, that's one of my favorite sites. And the link for I'm Determined will take you to a page where you'll see the quick links, what is for educators, things for parents, youth resources, and our summits, which we do a youth and family summit once a year. And we also do a summit called Move that is designed for young men who are African American, but anyone can attend. It's just that it's designed for those youngsters. And why do we do that? Because our young men of color are not graduating at the rate that we think they should be. So there's some specific issues that we deal with there. They have mentors and specialized programs through those 2 days. We hold it on a college campus. When we're face-to-face, we also do the summit at JMU, and that one revolves around all kinds of school issues, but we also use youth to mentor and also teach in the sessions that we hold. So it's sort of youth talking to youth. There also is, some of you might remember the old slide guides, the paper slide guides that we had. Well, we no longer use the paper slide guides, and that also sits on this website. Another thing that's on there is some short videos on critical decision points for parents. And again, that has to do with the rigor of the coursework and the rigor of the work that a youngster would do moving along through school. You want to go to the next one? Okay, we have an inclusion project, and again, that is run by youth. They determine what we're going to be doing for the year. They're actually paid for their work. We have them help us with disability awareness grants. And so they will read grants, score grants, award grants, and they are responsible for monitoring that grant in that school or school division. They also help us determine what activities we might do for Disability History and Awareness Month. And we have a website, that's the one that's linked there, as A Life for Me. They help us keep it updated and keep it real, as they like to tell me. Next page. Aztec is an online learning program that we've purchased through DOE funds, and anyone can access that. You have to have an account, and we do the registering. It has work readiness programs, academic tutorials in math, reading, and writing. We actually have a GED prep program through that. One of the nice things is you just go onto the web, it's 24/7. So if a youngster could actually go to a public library and work on some of these things. It was nice to have this when COVID hit and everybody was home, at least if you had access. Next slide. Virtual Job Shadow is another program. If you haven't seen it, you can go to the website and look at it. That's the link. We have provided subscriptions for students across Virginia and their teachers. It covers, again, career awareness through short videos and short interviews, and they have a variety of activities. It's a one-stop shop, so you can go to ONET from this site. They also develop lessons. We have some lessons on the 5 C's, teacher-created lessons. Teachers can create lessons and adapt to those for specific students. So you can develop one lesson, but one student might be doing something a little bit different, because remember, when they go into their little portal, they might see it differently. And Striven also provides short workshops on a monthly basis. They have, since they've been working with the VDOE and CTI, they do specific things sometimes that we request, which is really nice. Next page. TTAC Online, I'm not going to say anything more about that. You can just go to the link, see on the side where we have TTACs. Next. Don't worry, Judy, I'm going to get done. We are intrinsically tied to other state agencies. DARS is one, and I know they do pre-employment transition services, but they also work with us and do things with us. I think Jan Varney is on in the audience, and she could tell you what we're doing in Virginia Beach, developing a brand new project search site there, and those youngsters will be doing project search on Oceana Naval Air Station. We also are tied to Wilson Workforce and Rehabilitation Center, the PERT program. But youngsters go there not with the PERT program, but maybe you're going to go to college and the student wants to live on the campus, but the student has a physical disability. They can be evaluated by OTs and PTs and what they might need to accommodate their dorm room. DBVI has a campus very similar to WWRC. Now, I'm just going to take a minute. Why in the world do we care about foster kids and we think about their transition? Well, think about when you turn 18, you're a legal adult. A youngster that is in foster care can stop with their foster care, but are they really prepared to be independent and move forward with their lives? So through certain grants, federal grants, they have developed a youth and transition program, which allows youngsters in foster care to extend the time they receive. Stop. There we go. To extend the time. That's no fun. To extend the time. Just a minute here. I'll turn the phone off. They can extend the time. Sorry about that. They can extend the time that they get services and funding up to 26. And they do have some specialized grants that allow youngsters who are in foster care to also go to college. It helps pay tuition, buys them the equipment they need, computers. So that's why we care about what's going on with DSS, and also need to know that there's some programs for youngsters who are in foster care. DBHDS is our Employment First agency. And by Employment First, we think the first best option is competitive integrated employment, and that means minimum wage. and in an integrated setting, of course. Virginia Wizard and Career View are programs that also help with awareness, career awareness. Virginia Wizard is through the community college. All students in Virginia have an account if they want one. Then I want to also just say that the reason I put homeless students there is if you teach long enough, it doesn't matter whether you teach in a rural division, an urban division, or a division in between. If you teach long enough, you're either going to run into a youngster who's homeless or a whole family who has lost their home. And there are very few programs for homeless students. And one of the things that we do have in Virginia is Dr. Pat Poppett, the College of William and Mary, coordinates services and programs for youngsters who are homeless, so that they don't have to change schools every time they move to a different shelter or a different hotel. They can stay in one school. So that site also will, if you click on that one, it will show you the people who are coordinating services for homeless families and students. You want to go to the next one? Because I think we're done. There you go, Judy. I don't think I was more than a minute over.
Thank you, Marianne. Good evening. My name is Judy Averill, and I am the director of the VCU Center on Transition Innovations, also known as CTI. And as Marianne mentioned, CTI is an initiative funded by the Virginia Department of Education. Gabby, can you please advance? One more. Thank you. We are a centralized statewide portal that houses information, training materials, and resources for educators, families, students, service providers, and other stakeholders in the transition of youth with disabilities. And our mission is to develop evidence-based resources on preparing students with disabilities for competitive employment, post-secondary education, training, and independent living. Next slide, please. So I look at CTI as having really two divisions. We have a training side to us where we develop various types of online professional development activities and resources such as courses, webcasts, publications, and videos. But we also have a demonstration side to us. And this is where we are in the field demonstrating and researching employment and post-secondary education models to better serve youth across our state. So I'm going to talk about a couple of these models in a few minutes, but you know, these last 11 months have been difficult due to COVID-19. It's been a challenge for transition stakeholders, for educators, and finding ways to provide a continuum of services that are virtual, coordinated, and innovated to meet students' needs. So at CTI, you know, we obviously had an advantage in disseminating training materials quickly due to the fact that we were a website. But we had to identify the needs of the educators, families, and students very quickly so we can provide those supports and resources, those high quality resources, both online and downloadable to meet the current needs. So at this time, I'm going to take a few minutes, fingers crossed this works, to showcase some of the materials we developed to address transition services during the pandemic. I'm also going to walk you through our website so you can see the variety of professional development activities and resources that we have to offer. I really hope this works. Can you see my screen?
Looks great.
Oh, yay. Okay, one more step. All right, yay. I'm so excited. So welcome to CTI. This is our homepage. And if you haven't already had a chance to join our listserv, I'm going to put a plug in. We encourage you to do that. I'm scrolling down to the bottom of the page, and it's a simple step of just adding your email. What we do is we send out weekly news blasts. I promise we will not inundate your email box, but we send them out once a week. a blast that highlights new products, professional development activities, course offerings, and other training events that will take place across the state and nation. Resources for families, for VR, just any transition stakeholder. So please join our listserv. But I'm going to take you to the top of our page, and this is where you can see the navigation buttons on the different topic content areas. And I'm going to take you to our transition topic section. So if you look to the far left, you can see that we have some COVID-19 resources. And we have a wide variety of resources, both from our center and other sources. So you can see our publications right here, our courses that have been extremely beneficial for students as well as educators and families. I'm going to showcase those in a few minutes, as well as our career-related resources. And this has been, the career development has been a very high interest during, the past 10 months. We are really producing a lot of resources to support educators in that process, as well as the transition planning for competitive employment. But I do want to showcase, I hope I'm not causing you to be get dizzy. I do want to showcase our training page and our courses. And this is our most popular page. We get a lot of hits on this page, but this is the page that really houses our professional development activities. So videos, we have, good golly, we have a lot of videos on so many different topics, and the videos range from 5-minute videos to 20 minutes. We have webcasts in our online courses. So I'm going to take you right now to our online courses. We offer 5 courses. These are free. Yes, they're free. 5 courses, and 2 of them are facilitated courses and 3 are self-paced. And I'm just going to highlight a few. One is our transition course, Changing the Outcomes. And this is our capstone course. This was the first course that we developed. Actually, we're getting ready to gear up and market to our 14th cohort. This course is offered twice a year, and we cap the registration at 100, and it still just blows my mind that the registration or class fills up within several days of marketing and open up the registration. So that's why if you join our listserv, we always make sure that our folks receive the information first. But this course takes you through the transition planning process and includes a variety of activities to examine the strategies and use of evidence-based transition practices to promote those positive student outcomes. Another course that I want to highlight, 2 courses, Get Ready for Your Career and Get Ready for College. These are our student courses. We're very proud of them. Actually, Get Ready for Your Career is our newest child, our baby. This is an online resource that provides students with information on to successfully plan and prepare for their future careers. So you can sort of see both of our student courses are formatted the same way. We have videos. We learned very quickly that an hour-long video is not going to hold anyone's attention, yet alone a middle school or high school student's attention. So our videos are 6 to 7 minutes long, and that's why we have several videos within a lesson. But each lesson, within each lesson, we develop what's called Fascinating Facts. These are one of my very popular publications because they're very quick and easy, one page, where they highlight really the key concepts that were important within the topic area. We also provide, expanding your knowledge activities for students and or educators to enhance the student's skills within a particular transition area or whatever the lesson is on, and including as well a portfolio activity. So we are, it's amazing, during COVID, we saw a huge increase in enrollment in our student courses, because what we're finding, we develop these courses for students, but we found out very quickly that teachers, school counselors, anyone can use the content, the information, and facilitate lessons, small group or large group lessons. And that's what's happening, particularly within the last 10 months. This course in particular, it went live at the end of September, beginning of October, and we've already had 275 folks enrolled, and a majority of those are students. So we're very, very excited. Not just high school students, we have college students, as well as we have VR folks and family members. So if you get an opportunity, this is a great information to increase your knowledge on the career development process and how students can narrow down those interests, where they really narrow down them based on research to identify a career or work environment that matches their strengths. Let's see if I can get out of here. Let me try this. So I also want, I know that we're limited with time. I want to highlight some of the other materials that we developed specifically for during this pandemic. And the one that's the most popular resource is our Workplace Readiness Toolkit. So, again, everything hit so quickly that we really wanted to make an impact on what's going to be the most impact, where obviously families and service providers and educators, they had to partner together in new ways to help students learn. And so this has fostered the need for new conversations and support between the teachers and parents. And in order to assist with these conversations, we developed this resource to help prepare students for employment. We did not want students to lose their skills. We wanted them to enhance their skills while they were at home. So this tool provides a framework for teachers to partner with those families and reinforce those essential skills that have already been taught in school. Not something, this is a reinforcement toolkit, but we developed activity sheets. If you noticed, we developed 18 activity sheets. And in Virginia, we have 22 workplace readiness skills. Those are the skills that are so critical for success in any job. So we developed these skills, and I'm going to pull one up. First, I'm going to pull up the toolkit. You can download this toolkit or you can grab it online, but we have directions for educators, as well as the role of the teacher, the role of the family, additional resources, and also some general strategies to assist with students who may need some additional support. But what we did was we took each workplace readiness skill and we broke it down into descriptions that's pretty concrete, easy to understand. And we developed activities, a menu of activities where family members can embed these skills and reinforce these skills within the home. We did not want to add something extra on family members' plates. We wanted to really enhance the understanding that workplace readiness skills, we work on these skills every day and could do activities as a family. So most activity sheets, you have 3 options to activities to select from. And one of them within each of the skills doesn't require technology. So, again, we wanted these skills to build upon each other. But this resource, we uploaded this one at the end of August, And thus far, we've had 16,000 downloads. So again, we found that this was a high need. If you haven't had an opportunity to check this out, I highly encourage you to do that. In fact, right now we're looking to see how we can enhance it. So when we know something's working, when we want to continue to build upon that. So one of the last resources that I wanted to highlight that we recently developed in March actually is I'm going to go to our YouTube site. Up in the corner houses our videos, and this resource, Transition Tips, our Transition Tips series, are short videos on how to enhance various different transition skills at home. Again, this is something that I think our first one was 2 weeks after the pandemic hit, and we developed some Facebook Live sessions to market these, and where they're quick and easy, 10 minutes, 12 minutes videos that highlight different tips for enhancing workplace readiness skills, employment skills, post-secondary education and training skills, independent living skills. So there's just a variety of simple videos that families and, again, educators can view, and that also have a quick and easy fast fact that accompanies these videos. And so this was, again, our goal was to open up those lines of communication. So teachers really are supporting those families and working together and identifying strengths and identifying those support needs in various different environments, and to build and enhance student skills. So I think at this time, Gabby, I'm going to give it a shot, but I'm going to try to get back to the PowerPoint. So if you bear with me. Okay.
Are you wanting me to take control?
Yes. So
okay, just stop share and then I'll pick it up.
Okay.
As Gabby's doing that, I'll explain. Someone asked about the credit for attending the webinar. There's going to be a survey at the end, and when you complete that, it will email you a certificate from us.
Okay, so let's see. Gabby, okay. So as I mentioned, the transition tips, these are just publications that we also developed. How to prompt while providing virtual job supports. We still have programs that are, students are working in job sites, both face-to-face and remote. And so we also have some students who are doing their remote internships, and that require supports. So we developed some quick and easy how-to publications to assist with that. Gabby, if you don't mind advancing. So as I mentioned, we walk the walk, but we talk the talk and walk the walk. We do demonstration sites, and I wanted to just showcase some of these school to work programs that we have across Virginia. I think Marianne mentioned Project Search, but these two programs, Project Search and SOS, are still really, students are still enrolled and working on job sites. You're probably more familiar with Project Search since it's internationally known. It's a 9-month internship program, mostly at hospitals or military bases and large companies. As currently we have 19 sites across Virginia, but as Marianne stated that, we're excited that we're enhancing and expanding to 2 additional military bases next year. But if you notice, one, I wanted to point out that we do have students in programs and work programs right now. And 2, that the impact of these work programs. You know, over 2007, I believe, Marianne, is when the first Project Search site was developed and implemented in Virginia. And since then, we've had 705 students complete the program with an 84% successful employment rate 1 year after graduation, which is amazing. And we know that this type of program works where students have that support on a job site. But Start Success is also a 1 year program that for students who are pursuing in Virginia, what we call a regular diploma, standard or advanced studies diploma. And there are several components that make this program successful. One, it combines the CTE course with a semester-long paid internship. And we know the significance of paid work while in high school. It's very critical that, you know, we really want our students to seek out competitive employment while in school. So paid employment, they have the support of a school staff member on the job, and they also have a mentor. So the combination of that, you know, curriculum followed by generalization of skills in the work site, as well as a job support mentors, is really impactful, as you can tell. We have 11 sites across Virginia, and to date, we've had 133 students complete the program, and 76% again, students successful post-school outcomes, whether that's some of them have gone into straight into college and or training and employment. But again, the reason I'm bringing this out is, you know, for some students in these programs, particularly SOS, their internship this year is going to be virtual. So we've had to be very creative and working real closely with our friends at DARS on what can that look like and what does that look like when we're talking about, you know, providing those virtual supports and having additional work-based learning opportunities, because again, the purpose of these school to work programs is to explore generalizing their skills. But we're finding across the state that we're seeing a lot of success in virtual work-based learning opportunities, particularly with informational interviews and virtual job shadow. As Marianne mentioned, she, you know, the virtual job shadow program that has been amazing. So we can adapt and modify transition services. It takes a team, it takes thinking out of the box, but we're seeing success, and hopefully, you know, we can continue on. Next slide, please. I just wanted to show that there are other additional resources under our umbrella at RRTC. You know, if you notice, we're Center on Transition Innovation. We also have the ACID in College program, which is an inclusive college program for students with intellectual developmental disabilities. Josh mentioned the Autism Center for Excellence. And Gabby, if you can advance one last time. I just wanted to highlight, but I don't need to, since Josh already mentioned the various types of resources that they have to offer. And I encourage you again to really look at these professional development opportunities, as well as tips and strategies during these difficult times. And that's it for me.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelsey Dunn, and in addition to being on this wonderful research team, I have the privilege of being the Director of Education for Next Move program in Richmond. Next Move is a nonprofit organization that partners with businesses to create guided internship experiences for young adults with disabilities. And I wanted to share a little bit about our program and how we've shifted ourselves during COVID-19. So our regular programming pre-COVID is 6 to 12 week on-site internships at local businesses in Richmond, including Wells Fargo, Quirk Hotel, Greater Richmond Y, the University of Richmond. And the interns spend half of their day in the classroom and then half of their day working at an individualized job site, working on building those job skills hands-on. So Thinking about how to shift our program during COVID was really difficult, knowing that our internships are so hands-on, but we were able to create 6 weeks worth of job skills training videos and partner with Altria to host virtual experiences. So we relied on one of the only computer-assisted evidence-based practices for transition services, which is video modeling and self-video modeling. And we're planning on continuing hosting those virtual experiences until we're able to be back in person. But while we're using this time to also prepare ourselves for Tablespoons Bakery's first brick and mortar location, which will be the host site for some of our internships. And we've already been able to employ some of our young adults as bakers. And I could probably talk about Tablespoons forever, and I know that time is limited, so I will digress. Gabby, can you go to the next slide? I really want to share about our research opportunity. Dr. Thoma and the team that spoke today are investigating individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their experience during transition. We specifically want to hear about how COVID has impacted transition goals for those with IDD. We're conducting focus groups of the individual with IDD and their parents/caregivers. We're interested in hearing about your experience with the challenges and barriers that COVID has brought on and what strategies your team is using to support transition goals. The focus groups will last 90 minutes, and if you're interested in participating, next slide, Gab. You can scan this QR code. So you can also connect with Dr. Thoma and Amber if you have any questions about the study. And I know, speaking of questions, we really wanted to hear from you guys. So we can open the floor for any questions you guys have from just our broad presentation today. And you can chime in live. You can do that on the chat. If you're on YouTube, Jared, I think you're going to relay some of those questions for us.
Yeah. And actually, can you all hold the questions for like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Nothing like a curveball. There's actually some representation from another group within CEC that deals specifically with transition. And Tonya's on this call. Tonya, do you want to take a second and just talk about DCDT real quick? Sorry to cut you off, Kelsey.
Hi, Tonya.
Kelsey, how are you? Thanks, Jared. Hope you can hear me. I do have some information that I'd like to share relative to, let me see here. There we go. Are you seeing my slides show up? Is that, okay, great. Yes, I'm here to represent DCDT, the Division on Career Development and Transition, which is wonderful that we've had so many resources and information and panelists shared this evening with everyone. We are the Virginia organization to support transition under the umbrella of CEC. So we invite teachers, special education administrators, counselors, students, anyone and everyone is interested in career development and transition to join us and learn more about transition, just as you've done tonight. Some of the advantages of the membership include not only access to our annual conference, which we typically hold each year. Of course, it was canceled this year because of the pandemic, but also an opportunity to network with colleagues and other leaders, especially in this field. We've got some tools and strategies that we share often through our social media, through our website, and also you'll receive information from the actual journal, the Career Development and Transition for Exceptional Individuals Journal. The other thing that I'd like to share is that you do need to be a member of CEC, and once you join the Virginia chapter of CEC, then you can actually go in and select DCDT as the division that you would also like to be a part of. And the final thing that I wanted to share before we end is we have started holding town halls this year. We held our first one January the 19th with our own Dr. McNaught to talk about the I'm Determined program, which you heard here this evening. We also have one scheduled in the spring on strengths-based transition planning and assessment. This one is open to our members. So there's nothing like becoming a member today so that you can join us at this next event. So thanks a lot, Jared. Great presentation, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tonya. And thanks everyone for holding the questions for a couple minutes. If you have questions, I know this was a lot of information and may take some time to process, but if there's something, a resource that you had an additional question about or wanted some, specific details, we're going to take a few minutes and open the floor up. And if no one has questions, we have just a couple more slides to go through before we end. Pretty good wait time, right?
Yeah, I think we have provided a lot of information. You're probably all still processing it and need time even to delve into it, but please know that you can contact any of us as a follow-up, and if we don't know the answer, we'll do our best to point you in the right direction or link you with the person that would have that information for you.
Gabby, do you want to go back to the slide with the QR code? I feel like I jumped that pretty quickly. I'm not that quick at scanning, so give people the opportunity. That QR code would lead you to an interest form if you're interested in being a part of our 90-minute focus group.
It also has the information or the resources that were talked about in this presentation listed.
Someone's asking about the slideshow being sent over email. If you registered for this event and received the email Zoom link, which I guess if you're in the room, you had to have gotten that email, there will be a follow-up email sent with just kind of a rundown of everything, where this recording is going to be held for the time being. And then any resources, links that were presented today will be within that email. And Gabby, if you don't mind, can you advance the slides? Because I have a couple more things I'd like to say. So first of all, the national organization would be after me if I didn't plug the annual conference that's coming up here in March. So if you're interested in joining CEC or attending the conference, head over to their website. It's March 8th to the 13th. It's a virtual conference, but it's jam-packed. There's so much stuff and so much to choose from. So no way that I could even begin to explain how much is going to be within that conference. And then finally, the survey link. So if you click the survey link, there's just some simple questions on there. And what will happen is your email will be sent an actual certificate from this webinar, but you do have to complete the survey in order to get that certificate sent to your email. If you want to continue talking about this, or you have a question that comes up maybe later tonight, tomorrow, the next day, all you got to do is go to Twitter and use that hashtag. So we have a an alert set up on that hashtag to ping our account when it's used. So all you got to do is ask a question on there, and then we will get it to the panelists or answer it ourselves or put it out there for the Twitter universe to answer. Also with our organization, please utilize our social media, not only just following us, but a lot of times we're retweeting, liking, sharing other organizations, other folks that are in the field of special education, resource for everyone. And we would love to hear more from you all about what you need, particularly if you're a practitioner, a parent, or a student. So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to hear from you all soon.
Thank you all. And I do want to thank the other presenters that took time out of their evenings to present. Judy Averill and Marianne Moore, great resources. And I'm sorry we all ran out of time. We just found so many great things to share with all of you. So you will get those, as we said, in the PowerPoint. Thank you.